So today I'm just going to show you how I use snips when transferring jewellery. So to start with, I actually tend to use a vape wire. This is used for coils on vapes. It comes in 25 gauge and you get it in rolls. So normally it's a case of just cutting them to length. So I'm going to cut 3 here because I'm going to go through and show you how I use the snips with 18, 16 and even 14 gauge pieces of jewellery. So when cutting your snips, do make sure that you have enough length. I tend to go for around an inch, which is about 2.5 centimetres. That way I find I get a good connection between the base end of the jewellery and the back of the needle. So here we've got a nice 18 gauge needle. These have all been pre-opened in the presentation here. Now pop the snip in the back of the 18 gauge needle and then create just a slight S bend with a bit of a curve. So this way, as you push that snip into the back of the needle, it becomes tight. So you do need to be careful when using snips, especially if you're cutting them yourself, as the ends can be sharp and you don't want that to penetrate your glove or even your skin underneath, causing an NSI. So once you've got your snip in, just grab your labret or your post, pop it on the end of the snip and push it until flush with the back of the needle. As you can see, this is quite tight and causes a secure connection. So we're just going to pop this one to one side now, and then we're going to have a little look at doing the same with a 16 gauge piece of jewellery and a 16 gauge needle. So here with the needle, you want to insert the snip the same way you did with the 18 gauge. You just want to be popping more of a drastic bend on there rather than a curve. So I tend to go for more of a right angle. Again, manoeuvring that snip down the shaft of the needle until it becomes tight, being careful not to cause yourself any injuries or penetrate your gloves. From here again, you just grab your piece of jewellery, pop it on the end and then butt it right up against the back of the needle with a nice secure snip holding everything in place. You'll see as well in a sec, these are so secure you can actually tip the needle upside down, so nothing's going to come off there. Now this can also be done with 14 gauge needles, as I'm about to demonstrate. Now most people like to use blanks inside a 14 gauge needle and then pop the snip in just to get that more secure. I tend not to. I tend just to go with the snip itself. There's nothing wrong with using the needle blanks to make that smaller and more secure. I just tend to pop a few more bends on my snip so it kind of zigzags as it comes out the back of the needle. Again, just grab your 14 gauge threadless and pop it on. Now you can see here obviously I have pushed that in, which can happen sometimes, so it's just a case of popping it out and readjusting the snip so it's a little bit tighter before then popping the jewellery on the back. Now this does happen quite often. You do need to be mindful about how tight or loose that you're creating the snip in the back of the needle. And then as you can see, your 14 gauge piece of jewellery butts up against the back of the needle as well, and is still nice and secure on the back of the needle. So they're also super easy to take off as well. So once you've transferred through and done your piercing, then it is just a case of pulling the needle off of the front of the jewellery, popping your attachment on. So here I'm actually going to dismantle everything because I'm going to just pop those snips into a little pot and reuse them, and the needles I keep to one side for demonstration purposes as well. So again, off comes the 16 gauge, still nice and secure on there even though it's been laid down, just pops off nice and easy, and we'll pop that snip out as well. Now this is also something that you can pre-make If you buy needles in bulk and they're not sterilised or pre-packed, you can get your needles and pop snips in them so that they're ready to go, especially if you're using something like a statin. This can also be done with blanks as well, so they don't have to be needles. If you're transferring some jewellery or you just want to change some jewellery out, you can always leave a blank in place and then pop your jewellery in using the snip as well. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you do have any questions, then do reach out to me and I'll be happy to help.